Hey guys, this will be video 9 for the how to restore a vintage Gibson Les Paul, or as I've retitled this series, how to do a 57 to 58 conversion. I made a mistake in the last video. I kept calling it a 59 to 59, and it's out of habit because all the replicas that I do, I'm always building them per 59 specs. But basically, other than the fact it's a Goldtop, it's pretty much, I could say a 50s conversion. And the guitars, and I'm not just saying this to say this, and I'm not surprised, but it's probably one of the best sounding vintage guitars I've ever heard. And there's a part of me, it's funny, I was like, oh my God, that body really made all the difference. And then the more I got to thinking about the build and everything, you know, I got to give myself some credit here because I've been building for about 30, close to 30 years off and on, but really seriously for about 25. And I used to build acoustic jazz guitars per Robert Benedetto specs. So I say that to say this: when you've got an incredible old vintage body that's in incredible condition, and then you got extremely high quality like Honduran mahogany wood, and it doesn't have to be figured to sound good, but when you've just got all this really good material, and then you factor in 25, 30 years experience, what do you expect? You should have a guitar that sounds incredible, and it does. And there's a part of me, it's like, man, I came so close to hot wiring those um, pickup those 57 pickups over there. They're Alnico 2. And I had forgotten. In hindsight, I don't really care for Alnico 2 pickups, but I didn't. So I will never get to hear what this guitar sounds like plugged in through a Marshall 412 or like a really incredible amplifier. But hopefully we can talk Chip into doing some videos, because Chip is also a gigging musician. He owns his own vintage music store, but I know he's in I think two different bands in North Carolina. So I would really love to hear this guitar. And there is a part of me, according to what Chip says, as far as like when he wants to receive the guitar. I mean, it's ready to ship right now. But there's a part of me, I may buzz up to Nashville and go in the studio. I got a buddy that owns a recording studio up in Brentwood, Tennessee. And I thought about getting in touch with Fett and seeing if I could drop by and, do some sound demos with this guitar, because I think Fett's in his mid 60s, and he's been there about 30 years. And he's got a whole bunch of incredible vintage amplifiers in a Stephen Durr recording facility. Steve Durr is a good friend of his he's a professional acoustician. In other words, it's a pro studio. And I would love to get to play this guitar for a few days, if not just a couple hours, through an actual like Marshall 412 or a Vox AC30 or something like that. Because when I noticed about this guitar, when I dig into it really hard, it frets out. Well, it's not too bad, but and I'll try to do some sound samples at the end of this video, but not at the front because I don't want to run anybody off. But it sounds incredible, but it's a shame because I'm not going to get to really hear what it sounds like unless I hot wire some pipes in it and I plug it into a really incredible amplifier. So we'll see what happens there, but don't hold your breath on that. But at a minimum, hopefully Chip will do some recordings for us and let us hear this guitar, because I really meant what I said. It really is probably one of the best sounding guitars I've ever built. And I got to tell you, it's if anything, it's right in line with Eric's SG. And I'm not just saying that because I just restored that SG for Eric. I put it this way: if we had Eric's SG here on the table and we had this guitar on the table, Eric's SG is about 25% more vocal. It's much louder, much louder guitar. But the solidity of this Honduran with the old maple top, This has got just a rifled, precise, articulate note. It's amazing how crystal clear it is. Eric's SG is off the charts as well, and I'm not just saying that to say that. And I suspect that Jerome's 69, the Goldtop that is on the other table still is going to sound just as good. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens there. But I'll do another quick flyby. And I'm not going to talk a lot about. I do have this piece of mahogany on the table. I'm going to talk to you about why I think this guitar sounds so good. And it's only about 50% the body. I think the rest of it is truly the neck build and the way I build my necks, and just that. So let me do a quick, short flyby again. And I don't have a truss cover chip. I could get one, but I know you have in a music store, you probably got 3 or 4 laying around. But I will put some real nice little Gibson nickel screws in there. Truss cover, they're actual truss cover screws, so I'll put some screws in there for you. The bone nut is I actually went ahead and glued the bone nut in, and with a tight bond, and it's just very minimal across the bottom, very minimal. If you wanted to remove this nut, just give it a little bit of a concussion on the front, then on the top, and then come in from this back side, which I know you know this, but then just give it a very gentle bump, and it'll break free. It'll break completely free. But I've got this action set. It's like jazz standards. I don't think you're. Basically, when you come up here and press right at the edge of the second fret, it's just barely floating above the first fret. And the way you can really set your action to get really incredible playing action is you press down on this side of the second fret, and then you assess is it touching. If it's touching, that's you're not going to be able to get any lower than that, and that might be a little bit too low. But this one's just barely floating above the first fret, and what that means is this nut does not need to be dropped down any lower. And that might be a little bit too low, but I don't think so. It's not fretting out at all. Zero. So with that said, I think the nut is probably just about perfect. Frets are there's no frets. I got one high fret right here at the 10th. I've got to do just a little bit of working right there in that, and just in that A location, because I'm getting a little bit of a buzz when I'm fretting at the 9th location A string, getting a little bit of buzz right there, and I found it did rock just a little bit right there, so I still got a little bit of a high spot right there that I got to work out. Otherwise, it's finished. So ready to rock and roll. And I took a shot of the neck like this. So it's just really beautiful. It's almost like quilting. It's just really, it's got all the flame, but then it has a beautiful marble look to it as well. And when I say the guitar, it looks like it's always been in the body, man. And I've already shown this in one of the other videos, but it's just really complementing the body so well. Very, very happy with it. Okay. Beautiful neck. Okay. And the only reason I'm showing this is not guitar worship, but just to give you guys some motivation to build your own guitar. Or if you've got some beautiful old maple or Honduran mahogany that's flamed, then this is kind of what you can expect. And I failed to clarify when I was talking about doing all the nitrocellulose work. When I got to about the 8th or 9th coat, I did spray about 5 coats, very, very, very thin, with a honey amber. Had a little bit of amber. Now this is what is this? I don't. It may be a little bit of honey. I can't remember. Well, let's just look at the cap, and just remember that. Let me just dip it in a white cloth. So when you're building a guitar, typically I do not care for. Well, let me back up. Okay, so that's the color. I did all the clear coat base, all the base coats in just clear, clear, clear. Because if you think you might ever be shaping the guitar neck a little bit more, do not tint. Do not tint at all. Because if you come in and you spray a neck artificial color and then you want to start shaping on it, well, now you're going to get yourself in major trouble because you're going to have an artificial color that you created, and then once you sand into it, you're back to raw wood. But then when you want to clear coat again, now you're in trouble because you're trying to play catch up where the raw wood that you just shaped is now too light compared to the old wood. So that this will get you in major trouble unless you know for a fact that you've got the guitar you want, and you got about 8 to 9 coats of really beautiful leveling there. You've played it, it feels incredible. Then if you want to tint it just a little bit in order to get it to darken up a little bit, and I did this with Jerome's as well, Jerome's Les Paul as well. So, but you didn't lose, it didn't change it drastically at all. It just kind of helped warm it up a little bit in this location right here. And quite frankly, when I was spraying that warm coats, I was kind of concentrating right in this area right here primarily. And so what you see right here, that's the natural Honduran mahogany. And I think I might have tinted the headstock just a little bit, but not much, not much at all. So I say that to say this: be extremely careful about trying to create a 50-year-old finish. It'll typically just end up looking fake. And that's what I meant by just let the wood do what it's going to do and accept it for its natural color. And then you'll end up, being happier anyway. Or you'll realize that as it ages, it starts warming up or getting darker anyway. And it looks really good. So anyway, back to the flyby. Those are the Clouson Supremes. And I think I did clarify, it took me forever to finally get around to the point that after I did the water slide, I let the water slide dry for 24 hours, and then I came in and coated, I think, 3 to 5 coats of the very, very thin M113 nitrocellulose aerosol, and I would spray one thin coat and wait about 45 minutes, and then spray another super thin coat from like 12 to 14 inches away and wait about 45 minutes to an hour, and then spray a third coat, and then again wait about. So in other words, if I sprayed 5 coats atop that headstock, it was over the course of about 5 hours. 5 hours. Okay, and I did not clarify that. You might read into it thinking, okay, well then you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, wait 30 minutes, 5, 6, 7. Now, if you do that, the nitrocellulose will eat the water slide. And I also mentioned that I had never done this water slide. I've done a ton of water slide decals. It's just that I had never done the Les Paul model one, and that's what I meant by I was scared that it might end up looking like a cheap discount model, but it didn't. It was beautiful. And then sanding between coats with a quad alt steel wool. No sandpaper, period. Do not use any sandpaper. You'll lose your water slide. Okay, so what else? I've already covered the whole tortilloid. So there's not really anything to talk about there other than I did play the guitar for the thing is, the video that you guys saw me upload, I had recorded that video about 2 to 3 days before it got uploaded. So we'll say the video got uploaded on Friday night, I believe it was. I did that video like Wednesday morning or either Wednesday afternoon. So as soon as that video went live, I had already been doing the final setup work and playing the guitar. So, what is today? Today's Monday, whatever the date is. So, as soon as I do this video, it will get uploaded, but that it might be a little bit odd because there was a video Friday and then this video Monday. You might think, well, how in the hell did you get 5 days worth of dry time or fit time in 3 days? It's because the video you saw, video 8, was done Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay, so when I made that statement about it's one of the best sounding guitars I've ever built, I really meant that. I really meant that. But unfortunately, because it's an electric, uh, if I dig into it and really start playing, it starts fretting out pretty bad. Not that just because it's an electric guitar, and it's not nearly as loud as Eric's SG. And I don't think it's because of the sandwich construction right here. It's just that even my '59 replica Les Paul that I have upstairs, it's about the same volume. It's not, and that's a solid guitar. No, with no laminate in the middle. But they're just not very loud acoustically. And so there you have it. Okay, so what I want to talk about in this video, I think the reason the guitar sounds so incredible is because of the way I build my necks. Regardless of whether this is Honduran or maple or a one-piece mahogany or a one-piece maple or figured, whatever, it's irrelevant. I always build my necks this way to where my double adjustable truss rod is embedded down into the neck, identical to the historical design, because this is exactly the way Gibson would have done it, except they would have put a single adjustable truss rod. They would have had this hook in here, and then you see all this, it's just kind of, they're not putting a lot of solid thought into it, and I mean that from two different respects. Meaning, if the bottom of my truss rod is round, the actual truss rod, then the bottom of my channel is the exact radius. It's a 1/8 inch radius to receive that truss rod. So there's absolutely no voids in there at all. And then the top of the truss rod is flat. So when the truss rod goes in, I do drop it below this surface, just slightly under 1/16 of an inch. And then I epoxy this small Honduran fillet atop that. Has to get wider up here because of the head of the truss rod and all that jazz. So I say all that to say this: by spending all this time embedding that truss rod into this neck, it assures you there will be absolutely no voids in there whatsoever. You're leaving an enormous amount of wood in the neck because it's a very low profile truss rod. And then it just becomes a part of the lower, and it's so solid and it's so incredibly hypersensitive that and obviously when I see that's neutral right. Let me see if I can get that sticking up. Okay, yeah, see that's neutral right there, and the key is, one second. The key is when you're building this neck, because what is your objective? Tone, and strength. So by building this neck lower, perfectly flat, and perfectly neutral under zero tension. Better hang that back up. When I come in and when I glue this fretboard down, whether this fretboard is glued down with a tight bond or it's epoxy down, now my neck lower, the double adjustable truss rod, and the fretboard are truly acting in unison, where there's a solid glue surface here. The interior of this truss rod channel is sealed with nitrocellulose lacquer before it all gets epoxied together. So I say that to say this: truth be known, probably the workmanship and the design, the way I build my necks, is probably about 75% of why this guitar sounds so good. It's not because of this 55-year-old body. Why? Because my 59 replica upstairs is only a couple of years old, and it sounds actually better than this guitar. But not much, not much at all. But so I say that to say this: you don't have to have 55-year-old, vintage Honduran mahogany to pull off an incredible guitar, as long as you build per all the specifications of my past videos. All the series of like how to build a 59, pick your poison, whether it's a Flying V or an Explorer replica or a chambered engineered body 59 Les Paul replica. As long as you follow those video series pretty religiously, you're going to get a master level sounding guitar. And I've never seen anybody talk about this. Even all the Robert Benedetto video series that I was studying back in early 2000 when I was building jazz guitars, I never heard Robert Benedetto talk about it on that level right there. And he was not using the double adjustable truss rod yet, if he ever did. But it's kind of irrelevant because he knew exactly how to put the single rod in, and it had enough forward relief that it was always going to require back tension. However, and in case I did forget, if I didn't talk about it, if I didn't mention it now, I might forget. The importance of the double adjustable truss rod. When I first build the guitars and I'm stringing them up, I'm cranking forward relief, turn it counterclockwise, and I'm putting a little bit of forward relief in the whole build. And then I'm beginning to assess, the neck relief and just how low I can get the bridge. And then I back up, and then I take it back to neutral, and then if anything, maybe put just a little bit of back relief on it now to hold it flat, so that when I'm doing all of my fret rocker work, when I'm coming across all the frets, doing all the rocking work, assessing that, I want the guitar to be flat, because when I do all of my, if I got a high fret when it's flat, well, it probably would improve if I put a little bit of forward relief in it, but I don't. The new player, he or she may want a perfectly flat fretboard for like doing the real low profile Stanley Clark, I believe is his name, type work. And then if you had a high fret in there, then it would show up. So do all your level work, fret leveling, when the neck is perfectly straight. And then if you you don't leave any high frets, but then once you put forward relief in there, then you're just guaranteed you're not going to have any buzzing unless you get way too low in your bridge. And I was listening to Tom Bukovac talk about this a month or so back. There are certain notes and certain strings that have certain resonance that you can hit, and I did experience that a little bit on this one, and I think it was kind of at that 10th location where it was fretting out a little bit. And I went up there and I double checked, triple checked the whole rocking. There was no high fret whatsoever. It's in a very flat part of the neck. And I got thinking, I thought I was already pushing the limit. I had this bridge bottomed out. You couldn't have gone any lower, or the whole thing would have been buzzing. So I was taking it to that extreme to try to find out just how low I could go until some of those notes started showing up and they were impossible to get out. So then I had to raise the bridge back up. When I'm exaggerating, I'm talking like an eighth of a turn. And the magic number right now is if you measure from the top of the body to the flat right there and to the flat right there, I'm about 16 and 1/2, not quite a half, about 16 and 1/2 millimeter on this side, and I'm about 16 and 1/4 millimeter on the other side. So that's incredible. I was able to get everything put back together with respect to the whole roll. I got the roll perfectly true. I mean, it's kind of hard to screw that up because I had the mortise and tenon cut by Gibson 55 years ago. As long as I machined my neck properly, it was going to go back in there and be true to the body. So nothing funky happened in the roll that would force one to have to raise this bridge real high or drop it down real low. And if that did happen to you, it's not the end of the world. But if you can, try to make certain that you get your roll perfectly true. In other words, perpendicular with this plane right here. And as long as you do that, you'll have a great guitar, and you'll be able to put this in pretty much perfectly a level, and with relation to everything, whether it's an arch top or a flat top or any of that stuff. So I think, like I said, the reason the guitar sounds so good is probably 75% of the fact that I know what I'm doing, and I know how to build my necks and use the right wood and all that jazz. And then once you connect it to a body that's is so resonant and so beautiful as this one is. I wish I could get down into those pickup cavities, because that's where the real tone is, right down in the center of the body there. But that's magical right there. That's a great tap tone. So if you got a body that sounds like that, and then you build your neck properly, you're going to have a master level guitar. So let me get this crap off the table. And again, I'm not bragging or anything. I don't I'm not getting paid to say that my guitars sound great. Other than the clients I'm working for, obviously they pay me. In other words, I'm not affiliated with anyone, and I don't advertise or any of that crap. And I'm not charging you guys admission. But I'm just saying it from a standpoint of, if anything, to encourage you to spend a month and a half to 3 months building your neck and installing it in your body, and you'll end up with a guitar that you'll never want to get rid of. And it was funny, I was thinking about this the other night, and if I did have time, I wish I had a set of Seth Lover PAF pickups that are the non-wax potted, like 57, 58 specs. Although I think they would be Alnico 2s. And see, I prefer an Alnico 5. But man, I would love to take this guitar up to Nashville and see if I could get in touch with like the Tom Bukovacs of the world, and put this thing head to head against like an authentic 59, and see the differences, if there are any differences. Because again, when I first started stringing this up and I heard the acoustics of the body and the neck working in tandem, when you've got a really incredible join, you're hearing the guitar in this entire area right here. You're not just hearing the body. If you've ever played a really incredible guitar, if you just lean your head over to the left, you'll hear the neck is just as resonant and vocal. Same thing with the headstock. If you're playing it and you just put your ear up here by the headstock, you can hear the guitar up here as well. Most of you guys already know that, but that's just exciting. And I think the real test is when you've got a strap on and you're doing some like hardcore, like deep power, low power chords. You can feel the resonance of the guitar coming up the guitar strap and transfer it to your shoulder. This one did it a little bit, but not nearly as much as I was expecting. But I had a 1956 Gretsch Silverjet all Hunter mahogany with a super, like a baseball bat neck on it. That guitar, it was almost annoying. It would vibrate up the strap into your shoulder so bad that it actually would it got on my nerves a little bit. It was such a resonant guitar the thing would just vibrate in your hands. I'm not talking about plugged in, getting feedback from an amplifier, just playing that guitar acoustically. The whole thing would just shake. It was amazing. That was a like a religious experience right there. Okay, so I got to talk about the quality of building a neck, and the reason I brought that up is because I don't think I covered the neck build very well in this series. I may have, but if I didn't in this series, you could go to Eric's SG, the 69 SG video, and I'm almost certain I spent a lot of time talking about that. And if you're not interested in looking at the SG, well, then go to the early 59 Les Paul replica builds, and I spend an enormous amount of time, sliding the truss rod in, showing you where to position it, and all that jazz. Because I really think that foundation is why this guitar sounds so good, or why Eric's SG sounds so good, is taking the time to build the lower properly. Okay. And what will I be shipping back to Eric? Chip. I'll kind of run through, and I'm going to talk a little bit. I'll talk to you about this, Chip, about putting it in the case, because I know, in case I forget, I'll go ahead and mention it. Chip had mentioned, hey, when you put it back in that case, make certain that you pad it accordingly and hold the two top tuners, flat, because the case that he sent it in is the chainsaw case, but it was never intended for a 17-degree pitch headstock. So I just want to clarify to you, Chip, that I've always thought about things like that, but I remember what you said, and I'll take an enormous amount of time making certain that guitar neck is padded properly, so that there's really no way that it could be damaged, especially in the chainsaw case. You literally could throw it off the back of a pickup truck, and it's not going to hurt the neck. We don't want that to happen, but I'll pack it properly, and if anything, I'll shoot you some pictures of it in the case. But what's going to be going back to Eric is going to be this box, Cluson box. I'm going to leave these off only because they're just wicked high. And quite frankly, I think this needs to be lowered down a little bit, and that's not my part of the job. So, and Chip knew that. He was always planning on doing that work. So I'm going to leave these off and just put them in a nice little Ziploc baggie, put them in the case. Truss rod, and here is your your Tone Pros wrenches. I bent one of them so it's real easy access, so that if you need to remove that set screw right there, you won't run the risk of that 90-degree risking getting into the body. So, and these I've already tightened these two right here, but these two are not tight just yet. But if you were to remove these, then you could loosen it with the 90, and then you could unscrew it with this right here. I will say this: when I first put this on the other night and was playing it, the vibration and the resonance was so strong that set screw, I would look down and it was literally, it had worked its way almost to the point where it was about to fall out. So anyway, those two are tight, but these two are not tight yet. The two studs for the bridge, I noticed I showed them in some of the past videos, they were a little bit loose, but after I got the guitar set up exactly where I wanted it, I put some Titebond glue down into the body and saturated it into the sidewall, and then I threaded the studs down to a height of 14 and a half millimeter, knowing that the bridge was going to end up being around 15 and a half to 16. So then those studs were not under any tension. I set the bridge on there and I let those studs dry so that they'll be perfectly true and stable. But if you ever wanted to remove them, just hit them with a little bit of a soldering gun, and they'll screw right out. In other words, I usually epoxy my studs in, but I did not epoxy those in. I just glued them in with Titebond. I did check the ground on the guitar, because see, there's a ground wire in there internally on the sleeve. the bushing, and it's showing a perfect ground. There was absolutely zero issues with the grounding at all. So you should be able to just put your pickups in, connect them, and she should be ready to rock and roll without doing any sort of ground wire work at all. So you'll be getting, there's your truss rod adjustment screw. Here's all the original frets. I have absolutely no need for them at all, and they actually could be reused. And here are the original two studs, little short things. The studs that are in there that are the Tone Pros, they're about a ½ inch longer. Then there's the old bone nut, which is really, really small. I mean, we're talking 1 9/16 of an inch probably. It's super, super narrow. Oh, I'm glad I saw that. But what I did, I assessed the string spacing here, and the string spacing on this nut is actually, it's a 1 3/4 inch wide nut with the wider string spacing. I don't know the number. I want to say 35 millimeter, give or take, but I may be wrong. But still plenty perfect clearance. So the string spacing is ever so slightly wider than this right here, but we have a 1 23/32 inch nut on this guitar. So what does it feel like? Feels like heaven. And here's these 4 funky little thumb wheels. They are apparently metric. They don't fit any of the studs that I have, so I don't need those. So those will be coming back to you. And obviously all this stuff will be in the case. So with that said, oh, I didn't talk about the pickup. I tested this a little bit. You know, I spent a little bit of time with this, but I didn't want to fool with it at all. As far as I was getting a weird reading. It says that it's a 15K, but I was getting a reading over like 24K or something was funky about that. And I thought maybe there was a grounding issue. But the way this had some really nasty solder work. I mean, it got burned in really bad. However, when you hold the braid and you push on it a little bit, you can feel. Oh no, I take that back. I feel the cloth shifting, but I don't know if the lead wire in there is shifting. There's a possibility that this is burned through the cloth wire, and typically what I do is to obviously just cut it off clean, and then I rejoin and I extend. And if you're curious how I do that, I did a really nice video in Eric's. I did this with Eric's SG. Had to extend both of his lead wires. One of them was only about, I had extended about 6 inches or so, but it was such a clean job. All you could see was just the little solder joint where the 2 braids went together. So there's a way to do it where you actually just reconnect the vintage cloth pushback and the braided wire, and no one would ever know that it was even extended. But I don't really want to get involved in this because I don't know if this pickup, and I know you didn't ask me that, asked me to consider that. So I'm just, in other words, this is going to be back in the case, but I have no idea, what this bridge pickup is. You probably know more about it than I do. So she'll be back in the case, and should be fine. But if you wanted me to do an extension on that, I could. It'd be a little bit extra, but I can't guarantee you that even the pickup is any good. If you know that pickup is really incredible, and you want me to extend this lead, 6 or 8 inches or so, I could do that for you if you want. A little bit of extra charge, not much though. Tone Pros, we went with, or Chip sent these, Tone Pros 2, AVR2 nickel. That's the exact same bridge I've got on my 59 replica upstairs. Only thing I did, I don't understand, they have such a sharp edge right there. I come in with a machinist file, and I round that over because, man, that's brutal. It's so damn sharp right there. So I typically, the AVR2, obviously I know Chip knows how to do that, but I file that corner off. And I go ahead and file that corner off as well. And I even typically, like a saddle, see that saddle sharp right there? I'll go ahead and file that saddle edge off right there and this edge right here, so that you just don't risk creating any sort of damage or harm to your body that you don't even really notice. Okay, so and then the anchors. These are the Tone Pros anchors, and these are the old studs that I just screwed into here, and then the nickel the nickel Tone Pros is down in the vintage bushing, because those bushings, if you recall, I think video 2, if not 3, they were in incredible condition, no rust, and I ran a tap set through that one. Well, actually, both of them. So these are precise. If you want to do adjustment with a large screwdriver, these are perfectly functional. So I didn't see the need in heating those up, ripping them out of the body, being dramatic here, doing the new ground wire and pressing in the new bushings, and run the risk of effing up this body. So they were very stable, so I left the old vintage ones in. So I'll be sending these back to you. Unless, if you don't want them, let me know. I would love to keep them because I could always use them on future projects, but they're yours, and I'll send them back to you because I know you probably could use them as well. Okay, what else will we send back to you? You already know this, Diodario 10 to 46 is what it's set up with, so I'll include that back. That's what you sent. And it's kind of funny, this has happened to me twice in the last 6 months or so. The high E location on the Diodario, the little ball has broken and blown apart. So, and it happened on your guitar as well. I was tuning it up, went straight to E, and then tuned it down, did some work, went to tune it back up, boom, it blew apart at the ball. So I bought a new set of Diodario 10 to 46, and I stole the high E string out of it and put that on here, but it is a matching set. But just make note of that. And if it's just weird that I've noticed it has happened on, I think that's the third time it's happened to me. I think it did happen to me once on a set of Ernie Balls, and then twice on Diodarios. I know it was twice on Diodarios, if not 3 times, including this guitar. So that's really frustrating when you can't just go to the music store and buy a $2 Diodario single string. But nonetheless, if that keeps happening, maybe get Diodario to send you some new strings or something. Okay, so I'll check the time. 42 minutes of a whole bunch of information. Let me look at the table and see what I might want to talk about. The pickup covers here, if you want, I could install these. I should have already had these taken loose. I can install these pickup rings exactly where they need to be if you want me to, Chip, so you don't have to fool with it. And the way I would do it is actually take the strings off and install both of these pickups and center them, because I did some more measuring later on, and based on all the vintage numbers, these pickup rings that I have here, I got these from Philadelphia Luthier Supply, and they are a replica set of 59s. I'm sure they're the Asian reproduction. I don't think they're the Butylite or whatever, but nonetheless, from a dimensional standpoint, make certain I get this off the table so I don't scratch the guitar any worse than what it already is. Okay, but if you want, I could install both of these pickup rings, less the pickups, of course, obviously, because those pickups are just knockoff reproductions. They're good. I mean, they're okay, but they're Alnico 2s. I wouldn't put an Alnico 2 in this guitar. I'd put an Alnico 5. But I could install both of these rings, and that way that when you install your pucks, all you got to do is just, plug and play. Be like Legos. But it'd be a little bit extra, not much. I mean, I think I paid maybe $15 or $20 for this set, something like that. I think while we're here, if you're still here, you're actually interested in this. I'm not so certain. I'm not so certain that that one at the neck location needs to be shaped or radiused on the bottom, but I don't think this bridge would bend. I think it would have to be shaped a little bit. I've never even heard these before, but all the specs they're like the enamel wire, a certain gauge based on the 1957 pickup. So it actually would be period correct for this restoration. And there's a guy that I get those from, or got those from somewhere up north, but they're most likely the Asian replicas because of his prices. They're really affordable. Let me just see if this might fit. Yeah, it's bending okay. Yeah, it's not bad. I should have already done this. I'm not going to try to do. I'm not going to try to show you what I'm doing on camera. I might be able to. Let me get the headstock in the side of the light. Yeah, probably would be okay. So that would not be very difficult. I wouldn't have to do nearly as much shaping as I thought I would have to if I installed these, but they would be in like the 59 locations if you want, or 57, 58, 59 location. If you want me to install those pre-aligned with the strings, all that jazz, I can do that. Because the reason I say that is because these pickup rings are such an incredibly snug fit around the cover, the chrome cover. I know that it's very, very unlikely that if you go with a quality set of pickups that they're going to be loose. And since you clarified to me on the front end that you're not going back with a pickup that's uncovered, because we all know that sometimes, well, look at that movement right there. They can be a lot of movement. And even my 59 replica upstairs, I've got two Seymour Duncans in it. And sure enough, I think one of them, I know at least one of them dropped down a little bit. I think it was it's irrelevant, but one of them dropped down. And I was like, damn it, I spent all that time putting that ring in there and lining it up. And then from gravity, it dropped. But if you're going with a covered pickup, so you're not going to have to worry about gravity kicking in and that pickup ever moving. So with that said, that's why I don't mind volunteering doing this pickup ring installation for you, so that you don't have to fool with any drilling. But it would be a little bit extra for me giving you these rings as well as doing the work. And I'll send you a rough estimate of I'll give you an actual cost of what the charge will be for doing all of the pickup cavity work, because I'll shoot straight with you. I really wasn't expecting it to turn out that good and look that original. And I really don't think many people would know that was, they would have to do a double take to see that somebody reworked your pickup cavities. So I say that to say this, it probably will really help maintain the value of the guitar that, I did it right, did a good job. And it is maple. Those little corner pieces are maple. Nitrocellulose gold bronze tone lacquer, kind of looks vintage and old, so it's kind of cool. Turned out good. I'm very, very happy with this one. So with that said, I appreciate you trusting me with your vintage guitar, Chip. If you want me to provide these and install them, I can. I really mean that. I don't mind doing it. I'd be more than happy to. And if I did do that, it might give me the opportunity to drop those pups in there and hotwire them. And if anything, go over to Birmingham to Don's. A buddy of mine owns a store called Highland Music in Birmingham. And Don's got a lot of vintage amps too. It'd be cool to hear this guitar. But quite frankly, it's irrelevant because I've heard enough incredible vintage guitars. I would be just as happy to get this baby in the case and get her shipped to you. The sooner the better. But anyway, looking at the table, I don't think there's anything else to talk about. I'm glad I got to talk about that neck and the importance of neck construction. So with that said, if anything, we kind of shattered a myth that you don't have to have 55-year-old wood for it to sound incredible. as long as you do an incredible job building it. I think I've only had to tune this guitar twice since I strung it up. I'm just going to kind of let it fret out a little bit. I'm not playing anything, I'm just... See it fretted out a little bit right there. But I'm playing it like you would play an acoustic. If you just... It's just beautiful. And I know you probably can't hear that because the camera won't pick that up. It's actually... And the only reason it has any volume at all is because I've got it sitting on this table. If I remove this towel... Yeah, you can hear the table now. And basically the last 2 nights, all I've been doing is just going. And then on and on and on. So basically, I can't hold the guitar, and plus it's shedding on me. But basically, the whole fretboard is accessible, and I mean very comfortable as well. So it should be a phenomenal playing guitar. Okay. So with that said, if you got any questions or comments, let me know. I'll be happy to help where I can. And if you've got any very specific questions about a certain operation of the job, I know I can send you to a past video from a couple of years ago that will answer your questions. But looking at the table, I don't think there's anything else to talk about. So I appreciate you guys dropping in. And I will probably have already spoken to you by now, Chip. And then if you want me to do some additional work, I'll knock it out for you. The only thing that was not included, the guitar did not have the deep well nut there, and it did not have the cream tip. But I do have like a little poker chip I could put on there for you if you wanted it. But if you want, this deep well nut right here is actually from my vintage Gretsch. And I think I do have another one, but I would not want to give you that one because that's like from 1960s. But it is a nickel. In other words, if you wanted that, and I'm doing this pick work, I could order that deep well nickel knurled nut for Switchcraft. And if you want the cream tip, I could provide that as well. And if we were doing that, if I was ordering some stuff, I could go ahead and order a truss rod cover for you, and I could actually stain the perimeter of it, the white part, with the amber, like shellac it, or just use some amber nitrocellulose lacquer and kind of age it a little bit. If you wanted me to do that stuff, I'll be happy to do it. If you're just ready to receive the guitar, that's super cool, man. I'm ready to drop her in a box and guarantee that neck is supported properly, and just go from there. So appreciate you guys dropping in, and I'll see you in the next video.